Okay, so this is going to be my breastfeeding update. Yes, I am breastfeeding. I think it's the best choice that you can give your kid. I mean, like, there's so many benefits that you don't realize that you're going to give your kid until, you breastfeed or you find out, and I've decided that I wanted to breastfeed whenever I was like 8 weeks pregnant. I believe, it's the best choice for your kid, but also if it's not the best for your family, then it's not the best for your family, and I understand that, but this is my breastfeeding update. So, at the beginning, the first time I breastfed her, she was like, an hour and a half old. It was in postpartum before they wheeled me over to my postpartum room. So, the nurses told me whenever you feed her, just give us a call and we'll let you feed her. So I was like, okay. So I was like, well, I called them and I was like, I think she's hungry, so I'm going to go ahead and start to feed her. So they were like, okay, well, go ahead and feed her, and I didn't know, I knew what latching on meant, but I didn't know how to latch on, so I winged it. I just held her up to my boob and said, there's my milk. So she ate for like an hour and 30 minutes. So, like, it hurt so bad. Like, I did both my boobs. It hurt so bad. I didn't know that I was doing it wrong. Like, people have told me, it hurts whenever you breastfeed, so I just assumed that I was doing it right. So, after I got done breastfeeding her, they went ahead and took her to the nursery and stuff and gave her her first bath and everything. And I looked down at my boobs, and she was sucking, I guess, so hard on my nipple, she made a big bump on my boob. So, I didn't think much of it. I just figured, okay, well, breastfeeding hurts at first. So, when I got to my postpartum room, she wasn't hungry until the next day of her life. So, she's been born, it's been a whole day. She wasn't hungry for like a whole 24 hours. Hold on, sorry, baby alert. There you go. There you go. Shh. Come here. Okay, so I'm going to try to talk over her fussing because I have no clue why she's being fussy. Come here. Come here. Oh. Hey. Hey there, kiddo. There. Here. There. Okay. So, whenever she got hungry again, I don't know what it was. It's like both of us struggled to get to latch on. Like, I couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. I was getting frustrated. She was hungry. I was struggling. So I called the lactation consultant in, and whenever she came in, she was like, well, she's asleep right now. Whenever she wakes up, call me back. So whenever she woke up, the lactation consultant was gone. So I asked for a nurse to come in, but nobody ever came in. So I'm waiting for hours and hours and hours, and I called them like 3 times for a nurse to come in, but nobody would come in. So finally, I gave up, and I called the nursery, and I was like, look, my daughter is starving. Nobody will come in here and help me with breastfeeding. I need something to give her because I cannot get her to latch on. So they were like, well, what do you want us to do? Do you want some formula? And I was like, I guess I'll go ahead and give her formula. So I gave her formula while we were up at the hospital. Then the next day, the lactation consultant came back. So then she talked to me and stuff and helped me to latch on. So after she came back in, which Isabella was asleep again, but she came back in and she showed me some really good hold, like the football hold and stuff like that, so it helped me out. So after Isabella woke up and my mom was asleep, I just got me and Isabella, and all of a sudden both of us got breastfeeding. So after that point, up until she's about maybe 2 weeks old, she used breastfed, which I'm really glad that, I finally figured it out. And so breastfeeding was going good for the first 2 weeks or whatever. Well, I wake up in the middle of the night one night, and I am freezing cold. Like, nothing can warm me up. So I go and I crawl in the bed with my mom. So I grab Isabella, and we go in the bed, get in the bed with my mom. So I'm freezing, like I'm shivering cold. I shivered in her bed I'm not joking, not exaggerating, for literally an hour and 30 minutes till I finally shivered myself to sleep. So I thought, okay, well maybe it's just cold in here. I just had a baby. My hormones are all whacked up, so I don't know. So then I wake up and I'm burning up, like I'm on fire. I feel like my whole body is like raging with flames. I was horrible. So I was like, dang, I really, really have to pee. So I stood up, and I was so dizzy, I almost fell over. So I held the wall for me to go to the bathroom. I figured maybe it's just because I'd slept so long, you know. So I sat down on the toilet, and I realized something was seriously wrong. So I called my mom out of the bathroom, and I was like, Mom, can you please go downstairs and get me something to drink? She's like, well, please come back in my room. So I came back in her room, and I was holding Isabella. No, Isabella was still asleep. So Isabella's asleep, and my mom went downstairs, and I yelled down there to her, and I was like, can you please get the thermometer? I think that I'm running a fever. So she comes back upstairs, and I check my temperature. I'm running at 103 fever. So I start to cry because, like, I thought I was going to die. So I'm like, I need to go to the emergency room. Nobody runs at 103 fever for no reason. So my mom gets Isabella dressed because I'm so sick. So my mom gets her dressed while I'm trying my best to get dressed without falling over and falling down the stairs and stuff because I'm so dizzy. So whenever I get to the hospital, they check my temperature, and it's 102, I think it was. And so they go ahead and they rush me immediately back to her room, and they thought I had the flu. So they swabbed me for the flu, and they swabbed me for something else, and they wanted me to pee in a cup or whatever. So then I told them, I'm breastfeeding, and then it dawned on them that I could have mastitis. And I knew that I could get mastitis, but I didn't know that it would feel like that because my boobs didn't hurt. I just felt sick. So a doctor came in and examined my boobs, and he told me I had mastitis, which if you ever have the symptoms that you have the flu, and you are breastfeeding, bring up that you are breastfeeding because you might have mastitis, and that's not anything to play with because if it goes too long, you could have to have surgery, and it's not very fun at all. So by the time they figure out that I have mastitis, then my pee results came back, and I also had a urinary tract infection, which I've never had one of those either, and, it never hurt whenever I had to pee or nothing like that. It just, once or twice, I went to go pee, and it was like nothing would come out, but I knew I had to pee, but I just figured it was just because I had a baby, because I was, literally, I was maybe, a week and a half postpartum, so I figured that was just, something, that I had to deal with. So, they tell me that I have mastitis, and they prescribe me some antibiotics, and they tell me that none of the breast milk that I had stored in the refrigerator was any good because it has mastitis in it, which I don't think they knew what they were talking about because everybody else that I've talked to that had mastitis, they were allowed to breastfeed their kid while they had mastitis. So they told me that none of my breast milk was good, and that also while I'm taking these antibiotics that they prescribed, that I couldn't breastfeed either. So I wasn't breastfeeding, so I had to stop breastfeeding, which upset me so much. And I had to go and buy her some formula because I have nothing else to feed her. So they told me to follow up with an appointment with my PCP, my primary care physician. So I did, and then that Monday, she gave me some more antibiotics. She was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I feel better, because I never knew that, my boobs never hurt until, later on, after it was healing up. I just really felt like crap. So she was like, how are you feeling? I was like, better. And she was like, okay, well, I'm going to give you some of this cream or something to put on your nipples to help, because she told me I have a little bit of yeast on my nipples. I don't know what that looks like, but she said I did. So I said, okay. So I'm taking the antibiotics, and I'm maybe 4 days in the antibiotics, and I had 10 days. I had to take it for 10 days. And my doctor called me, and she was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I'm okay, but I'm not any better, but I'm not any worse. And she was like, well, I got to looking over at your medicine, and I gave you the wrong antibiotics. You need to take something else. So I had to start all over again taking antibiotics. Are you playing with me, baby? Are you playing with Mommy? Hey, baby. So I had to start all over. So, the whole entire time that I'm dealing with this whole antibiotics thing, I'm having to give her formula, which I hated doing because it upset her stomach so much, but it's either give her formula or have her starve, and I don't want her to starve. So, finally, I was counting down the days till I could breastfeed again. So, finally, whenever I start breastfeeding again, I was pumping the whole entire time that I was taking the antibiotics, but I was just pumping and dumping. But it seemed like my milk supply had went down ever since I was taking the antibiotics, and I didn't know if it's because she wasn't eating or if it's because of the antibiotics. So I went and I got the mother's milk tea. It's it's like tea that'll help you lactate, which I really like. So I just started drinking